Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we are the Quantum Mechanics, the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everybody in between.
We are indeed. Really dull, grey, kind of Oxfordshire day today. But we're going to bring some light and sunshine and intrigue to the day.
Are ghosts light and sunshine? I suppose they can be.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because we're going to be talking about a ghost today. And, unusual in certain ways. So, should we just get into it in a way? Because I've got unpacked full of stuff here today.
Yeah, you did say you were quite loaded.
I'm quite loaded, I wish I was.
So let's do it.
We mentioned this last week. You had that episode which you started and then you had to abandon quite a way in.
Yeah.
I had something similar. I started working on something for this episode. I'd say I got kind of 70% there with it. And I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. Was the academic paper I've been working on. It mentioned a case of a ghost story from the late 1800s. So I thought I'll start looking into that case. You know, as you do, you go off, don't you? So it was originally investigated by the Society for Psychical Research. I mean, in terms of the original episode idea, the summary from the Society for Psychical Research website kind of gave me what I needed for the episode. But then I went down this really enjoyable rabbit hole, Ben, because there was a link to the original case as detailed at the time. So I've parked the original idea for what I was going to do for this episode. I will come back to it. And I want to focus on this amazing ghost encounter, and perhaps, more importantly, how it was investigated and documented.
Okay.
First thing to say is that this case is known as the Morton Ghost because at the time the name Morton was used to protect the family involved. It would be more accurate to be referred to as the Cheltenham Ghost, which probably gives you an idea of where it comes from. It's so clever.
Shall I guess?
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I'm in Cheltenham this evening. That's where I'm going after this.
Oh, interesting. Maybe I've got the address of the place. You can go check it out if it's still there. It is one of the earliest cases investigated by the Society for Psychical Research. The principal witness's real name was Rosina Despard, then a 19-year-old woman who lived in the house with her family. And at the request of Frederic W.H. Myers of the Society for Psychical Research, Despard subsequently provided a written report describing the frequent sightings of a ghostly figure seen by herself and other members of the household. Now, the house, this is where you can go and check it out, Ben. The house was called Garden Reach. It was situated in Pittville Circus Road. Don't know if that still exists anymore. It was built in 1860 and then originally occupied by a couple named Swinhoe. Now, when the wife died, the husband took to drinking. He then took a second wife and she hit the bottle as well, Ben. Their relationship with the second wife was tumultuous, to say the least. Imogen, the second wife, left Mr. Swinhoe shortly before he died in 1876, and she died 2 years later. And it looks likely that the Despard family were haunted by this woman, this second wife, after she died, when the Despards moved into the house. The apparition was tentatively identified by Despard from a photograph as the man's second wife, Imogen Swinhoe. So the main person who's catalogued all this was shown a photo of this woman and went, yep, that's who I've been seeing, which is really interesting, right?
It's really interesting. I've just looked up that address. I am literally going to be 2 roads down from it, but I can see where it is, yeah.
What a weird coincidence. Well, on behalf of the SPR, the paranormal investigator, Mr. Myers, visited the household at intervals from 1886. He was impressed with Despard's testimony and the collaborative statements by other witnesses. He considered the case to be one of, and I quote, most remarkable and best authenticated instance of haunting on record.
Wow, okay.
He described Despard, the primary witness, as a lady of scientific training, now preparing to be a physician, and judged her family to be unusually free of superstitious fears, which we'll get onto because, you know, Miss Despard, aka Miss Morton, as I'll refer to her as she was originally known, just amazing how unafraid she is through the whole of this encounter. Really fascinating. Now, I got lost in this case, especially the original source material. So the document that I found, which is linked from the Society's website, is part of a document titled Proceedings of the Society for Psychical Research, Volume 8. The date is 1892. Now, we'll put that full document as a PDF on Patreon if anyone wants to read the whole thing. There's a number of cases in there, including this one. Fascinating read. The case is listed as Record of a Haunted House by Miss R.C. Morton. As I mentioned, that's a pseudonym. Now, I've done my best to edit down the pages and pages of detail because there's so much of it, but I tried not to lose why I got hooked into reading it and just got obsessed with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Before I get into the case in more detail, I'll just start by reading the introduction as written to give you a flavour. This is where I just got so hooked in, right? Described below was in a letter received in December 1884 from Mr. J.W. Graham, now Principal of Dalton Hall, Manchester. Mr. Graham had heard an account from the gentleman mentioned below as Captain Morton. He had written this account out of memory and had got it revised by Captain and Miss Morton. The account and Miss Morton's letter to Miss Campbell, which begin with the first appearance of the figure, are the earliest written recordings. Captain Morgan was for a time unwilling to give further accounts, lest the house, which belonged to a friend of his, should again become depreciated in value, as it appears from Miss Morton's record that it has previously been.
That's so interesting because that is something that we speak about a lot about the laws in America and such about declaring it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But on May the 1st, 1886, he permitted me to call upon him, and from that day onwards I visited him at intervals and took notes of what he told me. I also saw Miss Morton and Miss E. Morton, and I interviewed at their homes Miss Twining, a charwoman, and Mrs. Brown, a former parlour-maid. In this case, it is observable that the phenomena, as seen or heard by all the witnesses, were very uniform in character, even in the numerous instances where there had been no previous communication between the participants. So, yeah, and there's lots of witnesses.
So they're basically saying that everybody's story matches up.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
I have no discrepancy in the independent testimony when collected, with the unimportant exception of General A's. We'll get on to General A in a minute. Mm-hmm. Captain Morton's reluctance to allow the evidence to be collected until the haunting had ceased, a reluctance based on consideration for the owners of the house, has thus done less harm than might have been feared. It must be added that Captain M and the members of his family in general, while feeling little scientific interest in the apparition, were unusually free from superstitious fear. Miss Morton, whose account is given below, is a lady of scientific training, now preparing to be a physician, and her narrative has received no accretion since I first heard it. The name Morton is substituted for the real family name. He says the house is a typical modern residence, square and commonplace in appearance. I think he's moving in quite grand circles because my finding of the house, it seems quite, in these days, it would be quite grand.
He better not come round my house, that's what I'm saying.
You just go, okay.
I see your shed.
There's a lot of detail about the house, its location and layout, which I've kind of skipped. The investigator does do a bit of due diligence. They say the whole property is in a thoroughly good repair. Neither rats nor mice have been seen in the house. I like this bit. And there are no owls in the neighbourhood to account for any of the sounds heard.
No owls in the neighbourhood? Yeah. Oh, come on. I don't think you can say that.
Yeah, he's done a very extensive search.
Yeah, I had a look outside. No owls.
No owls. Can't see one. I mentioned earlier... So I mentioned earlier, Ben, how that a husband and wife had lived in the house. Now, the wife had died and the husband had married again. I love the actual description of that in the report, so I'm just going to read this. The house was built about the year 1860 on a site occupied by a market garden. While yet unfinished, it was bought from the builders by the first occupant, Mr. S., who lived in it for 16 years. During this time, in the month of August, year uncertain, he lost his wife, to whom he had passionately attached, and to drown his grief took to drinking. After 2 years later, Mr. S. married again. His second wife, Miss I.H., was in hopes of curing him of his intemperate habits. I love that. But instead, she also took to drinking.
Oh.
And their married life was embittered by constant quarrels, frequently resulting in violent scenes. So a bit of backstory. Now, this is really interesting. This comes up. The chief subject of disputes were the management of the children of the first Mrs. S., and this bit's important, and the possession of her jewellery, to preserve which for her children.
Right, okay.
So, Mr. S...
I mean, I'm imagining her jewellery isn't stuff from Elizabeth Shaw. It's I
don't think
it's like the Conan diamond or something.
Yeah, I don't think it's Pandora or whatever it is.
Claire's accessories.
Claire's, that's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, I think it was more lavish than that.
Right.
Mr. S had some of the boards in the small front sitting room taken up by a local carpenter, and the jewels inserted in the receptacle so formed. Finally, a few months before Mr. S.'s death, on the 14th of July 1876, his second wife separated from him and went to live in Clifton. She was not present at the time of his death, nor, as far as is known, was she ever at the house afterwards. She died on the 23rd of September 1878, and her remains were brought back to the town to be interred in the churchyard about a quarter of a mile from the house in which she lived. So we have a man whose first wife died, then he starts drinking, marries again. This marriage seems like a mistake from all accounts, and the two argue about various things, but mainly about his first wife's jewellery, which then gets hidden in the house. And then the husband dies, followed by this second wife. Right, so that's a bit of a backstory which will come up. So, Ben, the house was then occupied by a Mr. L. In the next section of the report, the investigator makes a potential connection to the death of Mr. L with the previous events in the house, which is interesting. It's a loose connection. But the report says, old Mr. L died rather suddenly, within 6 months of going into the house, and rather a curious coincidence in the same small sitting room in which Mr. S had also died, and where the jewels had been hidden, but in which the figure, i.e. the ghost, has never been seen.
Right, okay. So there's an implication. It's not really an implication. It's more just, that's curiously similar.
Yeah. He goes on, the property remained empty for some years, probably 4 after that. During this time, there is no direct evidence of a haunting, but when inquiries were made later on, much hearsay evidence was brought forward. For example, an old job gardener who often worked at the house opposite is said to have frequently seen the figure of a tall lady in black in the garden. A lady, Mrs. P., who had at one time resided in the same town and after an absence of some years returned to live, was met by me at a friend's house and expressed great interest in the apparition, which she said seemed to be identical with one seen in the same house shortly after Mrs. S. died.
So what is the apparition? What does it look like?
We're going to come on to that because we've got great detail of it. And what's amazing is it's consistent when everyone sees it. So it seems, Ben, that it's possible because of the haunted reputation, or at least the deaths in the house, the owner struggled to rent it out, even after they offered it at half the going rental price.
Wow.
Which it's almost the start of a horror film, isn't it? Yeah. In April 1882, the house was rented to Captain Morton, and it's during his tenancy that the appearances recorded have taken place. Miss Morton, so that's aka Miss Despard, who I mentioned earlier, the 19-year-old who first sees the apparition, she picks up the story in her own words. So this is her words. The family consists of Captain M himself, his wife, who is a great invalid, neither of whom saw anything, a married daughter, Mrs. K, then about 26, who was only a visitor from time to time, sometimes with but more often without her husband, 4 unmarried daughters, myself, then aged 19, who was the chief percipient and now give the chief account of the apparition. E. Morton, then aged 18, L and M Morton, then 15 and 13, so these are already also in the house. 2 sons, one of 16, who was absent during the greater part of the time when the apparition was seen, the other then 6 years old. I love it. If we go back to the investigator, kind of, it's just a normal old house. It's got a lot of people living in it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So she goes on, my father took the house in March 1882, none of us having heard of anything unusual about the house. We moved in towards the end of April, and it was not until the following June that I first saw the apparition. I had gone up to my room, but was not yet in bed, when I heard someone at the door, and went to it, thinking it might be my mother. On opening the door, I saw no one, but on going a few steps along the passageway, I saw the figure of a tall lady dressed in black standing at the head of the stairs. After a few moments she descended the stairs and I followed for a short distance, feeling curious what it could be. I only had a small piece of candle and it suddenly burnt itself out. Now that would have just terrified me, but and being unable to see more, I went back to my room. The figure was that of a tall lady dressed in black of a soft woolen material, judging from the slight sound in moving. The face was hidden in a handkerchief held in her right hand. This is all I noticed then, but on further occasions, when I was able to observe her more closely, I saw the upper part of the left side of the forehead and a little of the hair above. Her left hand was nearly hidden by the sleeve and the fold of her dress. As she held it down, I saw a portion of a widow's cuff was visible on both wrists. So this is the thing, right? This was the thing you wore.
I read too much Vid.
You do.
Sorry, a widow's cuff.
Yeah,
yes.
well, we're going on. She said that the whole impression was the lady in widow's weeds, which I think translates to dressed as a widower.
Oh, I see.
Dressed
Widow's
in mourning.
weeds.
We don't do this anymore, really, do we? Some cultures do, I know.
No, but this is a very sort of typical ghost look. So it's kind of black,
Yep.
with white accentuations around like the sort of I suppose cuffs and neck area. I guess.
Yeah. And then this handkerchief that seems to cover the apparition's face.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
There was no cap on the head, but a general effect of blackness suggests a bonnet with a long veil or a hood.
Mm.
During the next 2 years, from 1882 to 1884, I saw the figure about half a dozen times. At first at long intervals and afterwards at shorter, but I only mentioned these appearances to one friend who did not speak to anyone of them. During this period, as far as we know, there were only 3 appearances to anyone else, so other than her. She says, in the summer of 1882 to my sister, Mrs. K, when the figure was thought to be that of a sister of Mercy who had called at the house, and no further curiosity was aroused. She was coming down the stairs rather late for dinner at 6:30, it being then quite light, when she saw the figure cross the hall in front of her and pass into the drawing room. She then asked the rest of us, already seated at dinner, who was that sister of Mercy who I'd just seen going into the drawing room. She was told there was no such person, and a servant was sent to look, but the drawing room was empty, and she was sure no one had come in. So I guess that Sister of Mercy look could correspond to that kind of widow description as well.
Yeah.
Mrs. K persisted that she had seen a tall figure in black with some white about it, so a bit like you were describing, but nothing further was thought of the matter. In the autumn of 1883, it was seen by a housemaid at 10 p.m, she declaring that someone had got into the house, her description agreeing fairly with what I had seen. But as on searching, no one was found. Her story received no credit. I did think, because she was a servant.
Of course it is. Yeah, a silly girl was just hallucinating.
Yeah. On or about December the 18th, 1883, it was seen in the drawing room by my brother and one of his friends. They were playing outside on the terrace when they saw the figure in the drawing room close to the window and ran in to see who it could be that was crying so bitterly. So this is another theme that starts coming up. They found no one in the drawing room, and the parlourmaid told them no one had come into the house.
So I'm getting a feeling like if it's crying and it's in a widow's outfit, this is a grieving ghost.
Yeah, that's the implication, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's seeing a widow's cuff.
After the first time, I followed the figure several times downstairs into the drawing room, where she remained a variable time, generally standing to the right-hand side of the bow window. From the drawing room, she went along the passage towards the garden door, where she always disappeared. And this, as I'm going on, this pattern just keeps re-emerging.
Out of interest, do they describe whether there are feet moving or whether it's a gliding?
Soft footsteps, she described it as, but no description of the movement.
The movement, right.
Right, but I think...
But the dress would be quite long, so it'd be hard to determine.
And she does talk about that a bit later on, where she says you just focus on the face and the head, really.
Yeah. Well, you'd be so shocked. I guess that's where you would look, yeah.
So then, Ben, Miss Morton tries to communicate with the entity. So again, fearless, right?
Yeah, I mean, but if it's appearing in there and it's sort of so real, the only way of dealing with it would be I guess you'd either go to the clergy to get rid of it or you'd speak to it. And as it's so human, I think you'd feel bad about just trying to banish it. You'd want to engage with it.
Yeah, and she says this a number of times, and I'll probably quote it, but, she describes it as not like a ghost. It looks like a real human being.
Right, solid.
She says, the first time I spoke to her was on the 29th of January, 1884. I opened the drawing room door softly and went in, standing just by it. She came in past me and walked to the sofa and stood still there. So I went up to her and asked her if I could help her. She moved and I thought she was going to speak, but she only gave a slight gasp and moved towards the door. Just by the door I spoke to her again, but she seemed as if she were quite unable to speak. She walked into the hall, then by the side door she seemed to disappear as before. Now, what becomes clear, Ben, is that Miss Morton is quite resourceful and determined to communicate or, make some kind of contact with this entity. This is fascinating. She writes, in May and June 1884, I tried some experiments, fastening string with marine glue across the stairs at different heights from the ground. I also attempted to touch her, but she always eluded me. It was not that there was nothing there to touch, but that she always seemed to be beyond me, as if followed into a corner, she would simply disappear.
Gosh, she really is going to some lengths here.
Yeah, that stuff about putting the string across.
And marine glue, I mean, that's presumably because she wants it to be really sturdy so that nobody can sort of unattach it and reattach it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this must have been really unusual for the time.
Well, really unusual, right?
Particularly for a woman to do this. I mean...
yeah, exactly. And that's what really, as we go on, that's what really impressed me, how resourceful this person was at 19 years old and determined, unscared, determined to get to the bottom of what this thing was and what was going on.
Yeah.
So during these 2 years, the only noises I heard were those of slight pushes against my bedroom door, accompanied by footsteps. And if I looked out on hearing these sounds, I invariably saw the figure. Her footstep is very light, you can hardly hear it except on the linoleum, and then only like a person walking softly with thin boots on. So, in a letter dated January the 31st, 1884, Miss Morton writes, the appearances during the next 2 months, July and August 1884, became much more frequent. Indeed, they were then at their maximum, from which time they seemed gradually to have decreased until now they seem to have ceased. Of these 2 months, I have a short record in a set of journal letters written at the time to a friend. She says, on July 21st, I find the following account. I went into the drawing room where my father and sister were sitting. It was about 9 in the evening, I sat down on the couch close to the bow window. A few minutes after, as I sat reading, I saw the figure come in at the open door, cross the room and take up a position close behind the couch where I was. I was astonished that no one else in the room saw her, as she was very distinct to me. My youngest brother, who had seen her before, was not in the room. This is amazing. She stood behind the couch for about half an hour.
Half an hour?
Half an hour.
I don't think I've ever heard a ghost story where the apparition has been around that amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so frustrating that there isn't a camera or, any other sort of recording device because, I mean, that it would be extraordinary evidence.
Well, she does try and take photos later.
Oh.
She said she stood behind the couch for about half an hour and then, as usual, walked to the door. I went after her on the excuse of getting a book and saw her pass along the hall until she came to the garden door, where she disappeared. I spoke to her as she passed the foot of the stairs, but she did not answer, although as before she stopped and seemed as though about to speak. On July 31st, sometime after I had gone up to bed, my second sister, E, who had remained downstairs talking in another sister's room, came to me saying that someone had passed her on the stairs. I tried then to persuade her that it was one of the servants, but the next morning found it could not have been so, as none of them had been out of their rooms at that hour, and E's more detailed description tallied with what I had already seen. So she described the same woman. On the night of August 1st, I again saw the figure. I heard the footsteps outside on the landing about 2 a.m. I got up at once and went outside. She was then at the end of the landing at the top of the stairs with her side view towards me. She stood there some minutes, then went downstairs, stopping again when she reached the hall below. This is really interesting as well. I opened the drawing room door and she went in. So there's this thing of it almost can't, this kind of cliche of being able to walk through doors and doesn't seem the case. She walked across the room to the couch in the bow window, stayed there a little, then came out of the room, went along the passage and disappeared by the garden door. I spoke to her again, but she did not answer. So, Ben, apart from this feeling that the ghost is trying to speak with her, you could easily go, hey, this is just some stone tape thing going on, right?
Yes.
Because the route seems to be the same and where it disappears tends to be the same.
The pushing on the door implies maybe an intelligence. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It feels like there's, particularly with the crying, it feels like it's reliving an incident.
Yeah, but there is some stuff coming up which made me question that idea of stone tape as well. On the night of August the 2nd, the footsteps were heard by my three sisters and by the cook, all of whom slept on the top landing. They were also heard by my married sister, Mrs. K, who was sleeping on the floor below. They all said the next morning that they had heard them very plainly pass and repass their doors. The cook was a middle-aged and very sensible person. On my asking her the following morning if any of the servants had been out of their room the night before, after they'd come to bed, she told me she had heard these footsteps before and that she had seen the figure on the stairs one night when going down to the kitchen to fetch hot water after her servants had come to bed. She described it as a lady in widow's dress, tall and slight, with her face hidden in a handkerchief held in her right hand. So that's the first conversation about this with the cook. So exactly the same description.
Yeah.
Incredible. These footsteps are very characteristic and are not at all like those of people in the house. They are soft and rather slow, though decided and even. My sister would not go out on the landing after hearing them pass, nor would the servants, but each time when I have gone out there after hearing them, I have seen the figure there.
That's extraordinary as well, this predictability of it.
On August the 5th, I told my father about her and what we had seen and heard. He was much astonished, not having seen or heard anything himself at the time. Neither then had my mother, but she is slightly deaf and is invalid. On August the 6th, a neighbour, General A, who lived opposite, sent his son to inquire after my married sister, as he had seen a lady crying in our orchard, which is visible from the road. He had described her to his son and afterwards to us as a tall lady in black and a bonnet with a long veil, crying with a handkerchief held up to her face. He didn't know my sister by sight, as she had only been with us for a few days and had been out very little, but he knew that she was in mourning for her baby son. My sister was not in the orchard that day at all and is rather short and wore no veil. This was the second time the figure had been mistaken for that of a real person, the outlines being very distinct and the whole appearance solid. Just what a great description.
Yeah.
It's only fair to say that the gentleman, who is a friend of the landlord, now tells us that he has no recollection of this incident. So he's kind of come and told them and now kind of denies all about it. The same evening, this General A came over to our house and we all took up various stations on the watch for the figure, which, however, was not seen by anyone. That night, my brother-in-law and sister distinctly heard footsteps going first up the stairs and then down. This was about 2 a.m. On the evening of August 11th, we were sitting in the drawing room with the gas lit but the shutters not shut, the light outside getting dusk. My brother and a friend having just given up tennis, finding it too dark. My eldest sister, Mrs. K, and myself both saw the figure on the balcony outside, looking in at the window. That must be quite spooky.
That is, yeah. But this is, it almost feels like it's got a curiosity about what's going on. I mean, looking through the window, so again, I'm trying to think of things that we might recognise. That is very Wuthering Heights, that peering in through the window.
Yeah.
And this ghost that's in sort of anguish. It's very sort of very Gothic Victorian style to it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. She says she stood there for some minutes, then walked to the end and back again, after which she seemed to disappear. She soon after came into the drawing room when I saw her, but my sister did not. This is another feature, that she's seeing them, but other people are not. It's really interesting. Miss Morton continues. The same evening, my sister E saw her on the stairs as she came out of a room on the upper landing. The following evening, August the 12th, while coming up the garden, I walked towards the orchard, when I saw the figure cross the orchard, go along the carriage drive in front of the house, and in at the open side door, across the hall and into the drawing room, I following. She crossed the drawing room and took up her usual position behind the couch in the bow window. My father came in soon after, and I told him she was there. He could not see the figure, but went up to where I showed him she was. She then went swiftly round behind him, across the room, out of the door and along the hall, disappearing as usual near the garden door. We were both following her. We looked out into the garden, having first to unlock the garden door, which my father had locked as he came through, but saw nothing of her. So this is the bit where I was thinking, that doesn't sound very Stone Tape, does it?
No, not at all.
They go to approach her. The father obviously can't see her, but when he gets close, she effectively goes around him, walks around him.
Yeah.
Amazing, right?
Well, this is what the previous account said. Yeah, like she always seemed to be out of reach.
Yeah. Yeah, and whenever you got close, you know, it's a bit like with the trying to communicate with her, like she's trying to say something, but nothing's coming out. You know what I mean? It's like this frustration to it in a way. On August the 12th, about 8 p.m, and still quite light, my sister E was singing in the back drawing room. I heard her stop abruptly, come out into the hall and call me. She said she'd seen the figure in the drawing room close behind her as she sat at the piano. I went back into the room with her and saw the figure in the bow window in her usual place. I spoke to her several times but had no answer. Again, she stood there for about 10 minutes or a quarter of an hour. Then I went across the room to the door and along the passage, and she disappeared in the same place by the garden door. It's the amount of time that's just blowing my mind. You know?
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes, she said at times half an hour, but even just 10 or 15 minutes would just...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that would, certainly for someone who's seeing this for the first time, would really make you doubt whether this was a real thing that you were seeing, a real person, or whether it's an apparition.
Yeah.
And the amount of energy it must take, I mean, it's a common trope in sort of paranormal circles that it takes a lot of energy for a ghost to manifest. There must be a huge amount of energy here.
Yeah.
But I want, it's obviously, if it really is a deceased sort of widow or mourning person, someone who's mourning, is it trying to tell them a message which will free it and allow it to move on, or what's it doing?
What is the purpose? Well, this incident, so she's in the drawing room for 10 minutes, they were watching her, and then she disappears by the garden door. Miss Morton then goes on, my sister Em then came in from the garden, saying she'd seen her coming up the kitchen steps outside. We all three then went out into the garden, when Mrs. K called out from a window on the first story that she had just seen her pass across the lawn in front and along the carriage drive towards the orchard. This evening, then, altogether 4 people saw her. I thought that was fascinating about, you could track her movements like a real person. It's not like popping up all over the place, right? Let's get back to Miss Morton. My father was then away and my youngest brother was out. On the morning of August 14th, the parlour maid saw her in the dining room about 8:30 a.m, having gone into the room to open the shutters. The room is very sunny and even with all the shutters closed is quite light. She had opened one shutter when, on turning round, she saw the figure cross the room. We were all on lookout for her that evening, but saw nothing. In fact, whenever we had made arrangements to watch and were especially expecting her, we never saw anything.
Yeah, it's almost like she doesn't want to be... It's almost like she's embarrassed about being a ghost.
Yeah. It is worth pointing out, I think, that, although this information has been put together by Miss Morton and it's her voice effectively we're reading, skeptics might say, oh, that's all one source. But the paranormal investigator, Mr. Meyer, did confirm these accounts with people like the servants mentioned above and the families. Mm-hmm. Miss Morton goes on to describe more paranormal activity over the months that followed, including reports from those maintaining the house when the family were away on holiday. They pretty much follow the same pattern, though, Ben. Their sightings of the same woman, these strange sounds, footsteps from somewhere, it's the same stuff that we've heard. She says, during the rest of that year and the following, 1885, the apparition was frequently seen through each year, especially during July, August and September. In these months, the 3 deaths took place. So I think these are these deaths that happened previously, right? The family who had lived there before. She says Mr. S died on July 14th, 1886, the first Mrs. S in August, and the second Mrs. S on September the 23rd. The apparitions were of exactly the same type, seen in the same place and by the same people at varying intervals. The footsteps continued and were heard by several visitors and new servants who had taken place of those who had left, as well as by myself, 4 sisters and brothers. This is incredible. In all, by about 20 people, many of them not having previously heard of the apparition or sounds. 20 witnesses.
Yeah.
I see what you think. In reading this bit, I kind of thought, is this some kind of second entity coming into it? But I'll see what you think. She said other sounds were also heard in addition, which seemed gradually to increase in intensity. They consisted of walking up and down on the second floor landing, of bumps against the doors of the bedrooms, and of handles of the doors turning. The bumps against the bedroom doors were so marked as to terrify a new servant, who had heard nothing of the haunting. She believed that burglars were breaking into her room.
Goodness.
A second set of footsteps was also heard, heavy and irregular, constantly reoccurring, lasting a great part of the night, often 3 or 4 times a week. On the first floor, the same noises are heard, especially in the front right-hand room, formerly used by Mr. and Mrs. S. Louder sounds were also heard in the summer of 1885, heavy thuds and bumping, especially on the upper landing. These facts were kept quiet on account of the landlord, who feared they might depreciate the value of the house, and any new servants were not told of them, though to anyone who already heard of them we carefully explained the harmless nature of the apparition. Some left us on account of the noises, and we never could induce any of them to go out of their rooms after they had once gone up for the night. You can't blame them, can you?
No, you wouldn't want to come face to face with it because, well, not only is it scary, but I don't know, this kind of brooding nature, I think, makes it all the worse. It's very different to something, just removing books off a bookcase.
Yeah.
It's coming face to face with somebody that you don't know. You don't know what its motivation is, and you don't know what it's capable of.
It's it's not a fleeting glance.
Yeah.
That's just incredible.
I mean, half an hour is long enough to make dinner and eat it.
Yeah.
I mean, that I just can't get that out of my head.
Well, it also seems in the descriptions that at least Miss Morton gets so used to it that she kind of is there at times and goes about her business. What I mean? It's just like a part of the family in a weird way. Well, she says, during this year, at Mr. Myers, the investigator's suggestion, I kept a photographic camera constantly ready to try and photograph the figure. But on the few occasions I was able to do so, I got no result. At night, usually only by candlelight, a long exposure would be necessary for so dark a figure, and this I could not obtain. I also tried to communicate with the figure, constantly speaking to it and asking it to make signs if not able to speak, but with no result. I also tried especially to touch her, but did not succeed. On cornering her, as I did once or twice, she would disappear. Sometime in the summer of this year, 1886, Mrs. Twining, our regular charwoman, saw the figure while waiting in the hall. It suddenly vanished from her sight, as no real figure could have done. She thought it was a lady visitor who had mistaken her way. Mr. Myers interviewed her on December the 29th, 1889, and has a separate account. I've read the separate account, it's pretty much that. But it does give you the sense that there is this further independent confirmation. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, okay, this is quite spooky. Miss Morton goes on to describe an incident in July of 1886, slightly different to the previous activity, this one. It doesn't involve her, it involves members of the family. She said, on one night in July, my father and I being away from home, my mother and her maid heard a loud noise in an unaccompanied room over their heads. Unoccupied room over their heads. They went up, but seeing nothing and the noise ceasing, they went back to my mother's room on the first story. Then they heard loud noises from the morning room on the ground floor. They then went halfway downstairs when they saw a bright light in the hall beneath. Being alarmed, they went up to my sister E, who then came down, and they all examined the doors and windows and found them all fastened as usual. My mother and her maid then went to bed. My sister E went up to her room on the second story, but as she passed the room where my two sisters were sleeping, they opened their doors to say they had heard the noises and also seen what they described, this is incredible, as the flames of a candle without candle or hand visible. It crossed the room diagonally from corner to door.
Is that like an orb?
I was thinking that, yeah. I mean, they described it as like a candle light without a candle just moving across the room, but that was my first thought. That sounds like an orb, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
But, and remembering this is the first time that I think the mother had seen any of this kind of activity. She'd not seen anything before. So it does make you wonder if it was like some people were seeing different things, I started to think, Two of the maids opened the doors of their bedrooms and said they had also heard noises. They all 5 stood at their doors with their lighted candles for some time. They all heard steps walking up and down the landing between them. As they passed, they felt a sensation which they described as a cold wind, though their candles were not blown about. They saw nothing, but the steps then descended the stairs, reascended, again descended, and did not return. Wow.
So, I mean, this is... what the other thing that strikes me about this is you keep going through the accounts. It's not actually doing anything. I mean, I mentioned before about, poltergeist moving stuff around. When we look at some of the most famous cases, like something like the Enfield poltergeist, I know that isn't so much as it's more a poltergeist than an apparition, and that's arguably two different things.
Yeah.
But this isn't causing any disturbance around the house. It's not moving things.
Yeah.
It's just existing.
Yeah, and I sense no fear, at least in Miss Morton at all. She seems quite comfortable with it, right?
Yeah. But it's so frustrating it's not talking.
Yeah, really is, isn't it? Or she says it's trying to, but, it's not succeeding in communicating in any way, which, if it is trying to, and you're the ghost, it must be incredibly frustrating, right?
My next move, if I were the residents, would be to try and bring in a medium or a spiritualist, someone to sort of set up a communication with this thing. Do they ever do that? Or
no, not at all. Or anybody religious. But I sensed there was this feeling of it's okay that it's going on in the house, but they're really trying to keep it under wraps,
For fear of the house value.
Yeah, but, it's funny you say that because it does seem that word was getting out. I guess with kind of, you've got staff.
Well, with servants as well. Yeah,
it's people talking.
Well, they go down to the local pub and say, look at this thing I've seen. There wouldn't be an NDA.
Yeah. But some people did start coming forward. This included a gardener who said he had seen the ghost several times before the family had moved in. So this is the first time people have said, there was a ghost there before.
So this is presumably in the daylight as well?
Yeah, day and night.
Right.
Many others came forward saying that they had not seen the apparition themselves, but they had heard from a number of people that the house was haunted well before the Mortons had moved in. Now, Ben, the other week we talked about what makes the perfect ghost story and the idea of a backstory to the haunting being an important element. Well, in this story, someone comes forward to give what seems like a credible backstory for the ghost. Miss Morton writes, "We also now heard from a carpenter who had done jobs in the house in Mrs. S's time. He said that Mrs. S had wished to possess herself of the first Mrs. S's jewels." Right, that's what this carpenter... Her husband had called him in to make a receptacle under the boards in the morning room on the ground floor, in which receptacle he placed the jewels and then had it nailed down and the carpet replaced. I guess, he didn't tell his new wife this, and, the husband wanted to stop his new wife taking the jewels. So they get this carpenter to come round the house, the Mortons do. The carpenter showed us the place. My father made him take up the boards. The receptacle was there, but empty.
No, wow.
Yeah. My father thought there might be something hidden by the garden door where the figure usually disappeared. The boards were taken up and nothing was there but the original shavings and dust. So, it looks like something had been hidden in that house and someone, perhaps the second Mrs. S, had searched for the jewels but never found them or found out that they were gone.
Wow. But also, wow, imagine hiding something from your wife like that.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't... Should you really be getting married to someone that you don't trust to sell the jewels?
Yeah, but he was in mourning and a drunk at that point,
The perfect husband.
Yeah. So I guess the backstory kind of goes,
who got the jewels?
The jewels are gone, or, the second Mrs. S didn't know where the jewels were. She then dies, an alcoholic, and I guess haunts the location, maybe still searching for the jewels.
Yeah.
It's a ghost.
Yeah. But who is she mourning?
Like, I think she's mourning the jewels.
But what about the baby son you said?
That was one of the sisters. That was what someone... So the baby son was Miss Morton's sister, who the general guy mistakenly thought was mourning her son in the orchard, but it wasn't her.
Sorry, it's okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough.
So we have no idea who she was mourning for, but it could be these jewels. And is she maybe mourning because she wouldn't be dead if she'd found them, because she could have started a new life?
Yeah. I mean,
and nobody knows what these jewels were.
No. I mean, as a roots of a backstory, it's not a bad one, is it?
It's really good. And, well, did the haunting go well? How did it end?
It's as if you read my notes. But...
Oh.
So what's interesting is that after the carpenter's revelation and the digging up of the floorboards, the haunting seemed to fade away. Nothing was to be seen or heard during the next 2 years. 1887 to 1889, Miss Morton writes, the figure was very seldom seen, though footsteps were heard. The louder noises had gradually ceased. From 1889 to the present, 1892, so far as I know, the figure has not been seen at all. The lighter footsteps lasted a little longer, but even they now have ceased. The figure became much less substantial on its latter appearances. Which is interesting. Up to about 1886, it was so solid and lifelike that it was often mistaken for a real person. It gradually became less distinct. At all times, it intercepted the light. We have not been able to ascertain if it cast a shadow. I should mention that it's been seen through window glass and that I myself wear glasses habitually, though none of the other participants do so. The upper part of the figure always left a more distinct impression than the lower, but this may partly be due to the fact that one naturally looks at people's faces before their feet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's get on to Miss Morton's conclusion and summary of the case. I mean, I've really, really edited this down because it does just re-emphasise what we've already covered. But there are a couple of bits that I've picked out from her conclusion. She writes, the figure is undoubtedly connected with the house. None of the percipients have seen it anywhere else, nor had any other hallucinations. In conclusion, as to the feelings aroused by the presence of the figure, it is very difficult to describe them. On the first few occasions, I think the feeling of awe at something unknown mixed with a strong desire to know more about it predominated. Later, this is really interesting, when I was able to analyse my feelings more closely and the first novelty had gone off, I felt conscious of a feeling of loss, as if I had lost power to the figure. That's fascinating.
Well, I think I can understand that, because this thing is coming into the house at any time that it wishes. And that does take away some of the agency of the people who are living there to an extent, because not only do they not know, when they're going to be interrupted, but it's forced a mystery upon them that makes them, it's caused them to be secretive because they're worried about the value of the house, concerned about why this thing is there, and also, I would imagine, it's changed their paradigm a little bit to how they saw life and stuff. It's brought a whole new set of feelings in, completely uninvited.
Well, what I like as well, there's a couple of little other bits, but what I like as well is the description by the paranormal investigator of Miss Morton as a kind of scientific brain, because you get that in her writing and what she tried to do, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And the fact she's so young.
I know. Let's get on to that. Let me just finish this last bit. Most of the other participants speak of feeling a cold wind, but I myself have never experienced this. In writing the above account, my memory of the occurrences has been largely assisted by references to a set of journal letters written at the time and by notes of interviews held by Mr. Myers with my father and various members of the family and the accounts of others. I mean, number one, incredible case, right? Number two, nothing to gain for the family. In fact, they've gone to great lengths, or they did, to change their name. It's extensively documented by one of the participants and the researcher, over 20 witnesses, researched by the SPR. But I think what mainly impressed me is the work and reports of Mrs. Morton. Or
Yeah.
should we refer to her as Rosina Despard? She was 19 at the time.
Yeah, yeah. And what did she go on to do?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I have spent a fair bit of time trying to find out, and I can't.
It's just lost the time.
Yeah, that's it's eating me up that I've not been able to find out. I mean, maybe I've just not searched in the right places or enough. But so if there's anyone who knows the case, who might know, because I, like you, was like, what happened to this incredible woman? Right, that was my first thought.
And what is so tantalising about this is that it's quite possible that her life crossed over with our parents' lives. She could have lived into the 50s, potentially the 60s.
Yeah.
And, she could have even been interviewed on, what we would, a television programme. It's, which is crazy for someone who was recording this in 1889, but it is possible. It is possible. But I just would love to, I guess she put it behind her and just got on with her life, but
I don't know. I really don't know. That's the frustration, isn't it? But I also would like to give a word of respect to the SPR investigator, Mr. Myers, because I was thinking this. If you imagine this now, the paranormal investigator would be all over it, wouldn't it? And Miss Morton would just be a contributor or telling her story, and the investigator would almost take all the kudos and credit, wouldn't they? But Mr. Myers has put this whole thing together, checked it out, got it, into this journal for the SPR, but said to her, look, you write it. I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, I do too. The whole thing is curious, and I mean, I'm almost 100% sure this house is still standing because it would be a listed building, I would think.
Oh, you would think, wouldn't you? Yeah.
And there's a lot of Georgian and Regency buildings around Cheltenham. So that description of it being square, that sits with it being like Georgian type construction. I wonder if the current residents have any idea.
Yeah. You get a knock on their door tonight. That's weird you're going there tonight.
Isn't it
You're
weird?
literally two streets away.
Yeah. Well,
that is weird.
My father has recently moved there, and we're going to go and see his new house.
Wow.
So, that
maybe
is
it's
weird.
that house.
Wow,
that'd be mind blowing.
I do know it is an old house, but I know
Wrong
where
address.
I know where he lives. But I just
I'm glad you know where your dad lives. He's finally told you.
Well, I only found out yesterday because I thought, I better get your postcode.
Right.
But I just did, from where you described it was, how long, but Google, that's what I was doing whilst you were talking.
Yeah.
How long by car from there to where postcode is in my dad's house? It says 4 minutes. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's literally 4 minutes away.
That's so weird.
Yeah. But that is a fascinating case, and I suppose my frustration with it is only that how have we not had anything like that in recent years when phone cameras have been around? Yeah. We'd be going live on Twitch with a ghost like this. Every television company in the world would be descending upon that house.
Yeah.
And yet, why was that ghost so strong? Why is it an absolute black swan event to have something like that?
I mean, I have never heard that I can remember of somebody be able to spend half an hour observing one ghost.
No.
In that detail, right?
No. Well, the effects of a ghost, we've heard of, a poltergeist rapping for hours on end, but not a full-blown apparition like that. Absolutely not. It is remarkable that, and the fact that nobody knows who it really was. There wasn't really a good guess as to who this person is.
Yeah. I mean, the closest we get is this second wife of the previous occupant and this connection with the jewels. But, obviously someone in mourning, who knows? Maybe it was the first wife. Mourning what happened to her husband afterwards. Who knows what's going on?
But the fact the jewels are missing, and this is very Sherlockian.
It really is.
It really is fascinating, because that could be an absolute fortune. I mean,
Yeah.
I was only semi-joking, but there could have been a huge diamond or a huge rock in there worth, more than the house,
Yeah.
which is why he was so worried about keeping it. Although I would have thought, even in that time, well, particularly in that time, you'd go to the bank and put it in the vault, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I would have thought.
It would be great when they said that they got the carpenter who'd originally hidden it to come round to dig up the floorboards. He arrived in his Bentley.
Oh, I don't know where those have gone.
Yeah. Oh, no, they've gone.
Yeah, he was latterly known as Chippy the Rich.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
You can see why I got
Of course I
so
can.
drawn into this. I've got some. I'll talk more of some of the inventive ways she tried to add a level of scientific rigour to the investigation in Ben and Peter's Extras group, and I have some reaction to the ghost she witnessed involving the family dogs as well, which I thought you'd enjoy.
Oh,
in the Extras
yes,
group
please. And the dogs are all fine?
Fine, yeah.
So it's safe
It was
to
just
listen
their
to.
behaviour that was associated when the ghost was around.
Excellent. Well, to hear that, you need to go to patreon.com/TQM pod. Sign up where you will get every episode a week early and ad-free. You get the extra episodes, Ben and Peter's Extra Scoop. You get access to the Discord. And you get other little bits and pieces throughout the year, which sounds disconcertingly vague, but that is because as they come out of the woodwork. But in the scoop, I'll be talking to our patrons. We've got another live event confirmed, and we're going to do a meetup there and do some lovely stuff. And then next week, I have been reading. I've got ahead of myself. As you said, normally our cadence is I'll have a little break from this, and then while you do this, and then I'll research mine next week. I ordered a book off Amazon, and it came earlier than I expected because it was from America. It's fascinating, and I've already half written the episode, but it's about another peculiar connection between the UFO phenomena and the Bible. But this particular one is about the Ark of the Covenant, and it is nothing to do with Indiana Jones or anything like that. It's a quite remarkable look at how that is spoken about in the Bible, and some remarkable modern day evidence which suggests that it isn't what we think it is, and might be some alien technology. So that is coming up next week.
Hold on, you need to hit bingo, don't you? We'll save that for next week.
We'll save that for next week.
All right, great.
In the meantime, stay dry if you're in the UK, and if you're elsewhere, stay whatever your local weather is.
I was going to say stay wet, but that
Stay
would be
wet.
so wrong.
That's enough of a widow's cough.
We will see you next week on the Quantum Mechanics. Thanks for listening.
Take care.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?